Okay, let's get started. Wow. All right. Well, let me just get prepared on my side. But good afternoon for the people on the East Coast, or good evening, depending where you are. I am Astrid, a client success manager at Born, and I will be presenting today's Women Supporting Women's panelists and host. If you have any questions throughout the webinar, please submit them in the chat room, and we will try to respond to as many of your questions as possible. All right, let's get started with our first panelist. If you want to change to the next slide. Awesome. So we have Azita Arvani. She is the general manager of Rakuten Mobile in the Americas, building the business and overseeing its development, strategy, and deployment. Azita is an executive high-tech leader who delivers innovation-led revenue growth. By deploying the latest digital technologies, including 5G, AI, IoT, cloud, and augmented/virtual reality, she has created new businesses, developed products, and built partnerships for both established Fortune 500 companies as well as rapid growth startups. Prior to Rakuten, Azita served as head of innovation partnering and venture management at Nokia. She has also held senior leadership and advisory roles at Docomo, Xerox, UPEC, which is now part of Apple, and 6WIN. She also serves on the board of directors of the Tenant Company. And if you aren't already impressed, Azita also holds a Master of Science in Management from Stanford University and a Master of Science in Computer Science from USC in LA. She is recognized as an avid evangelist of true digital transformation for telcos as well as other industries. Welcome and thank you for joining, Azita. All right, our second panelist is Nida Fazli, who is a senior strategic sourcing manager at Facebook, focusing on bringing more people online to a faster internet. Born in Assam, India, Nida earned her bachelor's with an engineering degree from the Arvani College of Engineering and Computer Science. She also attained her master's degree from the University of Texas in Dallas in computer science and engineering. Nida began her career as a software engineer. She worked at Ericsson and HPE before joining Facebook in January 2017, where she led the partnership and innovation efforts. Additionally, she is part of the Diversity and Inclusion Core Committee at Facebook Connectivity Team and was recently nominated to lead a leadership coaching circle in May 2020, coaching younger women to lead without positional authority called Leadership Through Influence. Nida has officially mentored several women throughout her career and believes in empowering each other through our actions. In her own words, our voice together can change the world. Welcome as well, Nida. Thank you. And our third and last panelist is Deborah Newman. Deborah is Grant Thornton's entertainment industry leader and has over 25 years of experience in the entertainment and media industry. Formerly, she was the head of global compliance and business process improvement at Warner Bros. And even prior to that, she was an entertainment partner at PricewaterhouseCoopers. In addition to a successful career, she's also a certified professional coach and mentors other professionals to help them navigate their career. I feel like I can speak for everyone on the call when I say that we are so excited to have all three of you as our panelists today. You are truly inspirational. But before we start this call, I would also like to introduce our hosts, Debbie Menin and Sumit Grover. So Debbie is a VP in Media and Entertainment at Tech Mahindra. Formerly, she was the EVP of the Advanced Imaging Society, which is the entertainment industry organization that represents emerging technologies for content creation. Her background is focused on running entertainment strategies and advertising sales management positions in media. She's also had high-level positions at companies such as Media General, Yahoo, AOL, MTV Networks, and Variety. Our other host, Sumit, is responsible for the growth of Tech Mahindra's cable, media, and entertainment business in Americas. In addition, Sumit is also responsible for few top strategic global accounts growth as a special charter for the company. So after a successful stint of jump-starting a CME business in Japan, for which he was based in Tokyo, Sumit has relocated back to the US and currently lives with his family in New Jersey. Thank you both for organizing such an important and impactful webinar. So I know you're probably tired of hearing my voice at this point. I spoke a lot, so I will let Sumit take over. Sumit, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Astrid, for your kind words and setting the stage. Good day, everyone. Hope you all at home and work are safe and healthy. I'm Sumit, your host, and in case you didn't notice the 5G and IT in my name, look again. Please do call us for any 5G and IT needs you may have. It gives me immense pleasure and a deep sense of honor to host such an elite and powerful panel today on our show. In my past 14 years here at Tech Mahindra, I've had a unique privilege and pleasure to have four very successful women mentors and managers. Three of them, DB, Renee, and Mahalakshmi Iyer, are now my lifelong family friends. From initiatives like Nanhi Kali, empowering the girl child through education, to a flagship career development program where stars are identified, we call it FAME, Female Achievers in Making, the inspiration has always been just around the corner for us. But I'm so privileged to host this session representing our most exciting business unit, the Cable, Media, and Entertainment, where we offer experience, technology, and engineering solutions from glass to glass through innovative people, products, platforms, and possibilities. I promise this was the last piece of commercial advertisement in this event today. I think we all agree that the idea of running webinars right now for good is of utmost importance. We've been hosting these virtual sessions on Fridays covering variety of different topics of interest to our industry. With that said, we're going to kick off a special Women in Tech series today by covering a subject that is relevant to all of us, both men and women, for those working from home and working at home, and for those in tech, and especially for those who are not. With that, may I request Hitesh to pull up a poll we have for you. And while you answer this question, allow me to share a bit about my first woman mentor, and hopefully yours as well. As a man born in India in a typical middle class family, I've enjoyed many privileges of having women mentors around me from a very young age. When I think about the ideal mentor, there are three aspects that come to my mind. A good mentor pushes us to be the best version of ourselves possible. The mentor shows us the way by embodying the exact principles they wish to instill in us. And most importantly, a good mentor is our biggest cheerleader, rooting for us unconditionally. Reminds you of someone? You're absolutely right. Your mom. I do want to take this moment to thank all the moms attending today and also our respective mothers for being our first women mentors. Thank you, Ma. Now let's look at some statistics and a true story. When a couple complained in 2019 that the man's credit limit was 20 times higher than his wife's, despite her higher credit score, the discrepancy was blamed on an algorithm. But with women occupying just 26% of jobs in AI, artificial intelligence, it is no surprise that many algorithms were biased towards men. Worldwide, women still earn just 77 cents for every dollar earned by men. The latest research by the World Economic Forum says it will take until 2255 to close the gender pay gap. This gender pay gap is one reason why 70% of the world's poor are women and girls. How can I tell my daughter that their granddaughters will still be paid less than a man for the same work? That's why we are here today. Women in tech need role models and new ideas about what's possible to achieve as a woman. In an effort to promote positivity and female empowerment, in these unprecedented times, we truly hope that this platform inspires and creates an impact to every man and woman attending. We all know, as they say, a woman alone has the power, but collectively, it's an impact. We are honored to have three distinguished guests who will provide their insights on a number of topics that are most relevant in today's world, from finding your voice to finding your passion, and from mentoring to career transitions. Here's to the women who forged a path, mentored others, and created a voice for those who didn't have a platform. Let's kick it off with none other than our very own Debbie Menin.
Thank you, Sumit and Astrid, for starting the series today. I first have to say finding the best version of ourselves. Yes, it was my mom and she is watching. All right, let's talk about something here about finding our voice. One thing we know for sure is that our network is simply stronger together. This webinar will be extremely timely for our industry friends to better understand right now how to help our other industries. So let's kick it off here. I have a quote I'm going to read, but it's actually only a portion of a quote from Nelson Mandela's speech that he gave during his inauguration. All right. Our deepest fear is not that we are inadequate. Our deepest fear is that we are powerful beyond measure. It's our light, not our darkness, that most frightens us. We ask ourselves, who am I to be brilliant, gorgeous, talented, and fabulous? Really, who are you not to be? Your playing small does not serve the world. There is nothing enlightened about shrinking so that others won't feel insecure around you. We are all meant to shine, as children do. And as we let our own light shine, we unconsciously give permission to do the same for others. All right, let that sink in for a minute. Now, might I add that this speech was written by a woman named Marianne Williamson? We give her a lot of credit. Well, I'd love to take a few minutes now and talk about this very same subject. So Deborah, given that you are a partner at PwC and held a VP position at Warner Brothers, it doesn't appear as if you played small. Oh, is that the case?
So it does not appear that way. And absolutely, I achieved those positions. But I look at it and say, to the outside world, it definitely looks great, right? These different great roles, and they were very important. But inside, I always felt small, which may sound odd. So much of my moving up the ladder was trying to impress others, trying to prove that I was good enough because I could achieve. And in that way, I didn't really truly own my power. So it wasn't just I can do, achieving these different roles. It was like, I have to prove to the world that I'm okay. And there's a difference in that. One is really giving your power away to everybody else versus owning it and driving it yourself from that internal strength.
Well, good answer. Thank you. Azita, did this quote resonate with you at all? And have you seen women doing this throughout their career and throughout your career? And if so, we'd really love to know if you have any advice on how not to play small, or does playing small sometimes help you once in a while? How do you like that question?
I love that question. First of all, I love that quote, and I'm so glad that you brought it up. As a matter of fact, 2 weeks ago, I was going into a very important meeting, and I was looking for that quote. So it's very encouraging, and especially the part about by being our best, it's not a selfish thing. It actually gives permission to others to be their best. That part of it resonates with me the most, to say that we're actually helping others by doing this. And many times you feel like you don't fit in, and by playing small, you make others feel comfortable, but that's absolutely not the case. And most importantly, that little voice inside of you that knows you could have done more, you could have done better, that you have to live with for the rest of your life. So even for putting that down, you need to be true to yourself and really push yourself. The advice I would have is that you don't have to lose yourself to blend in. As you mentioned, especially in technology, there are not that many role models. So when I was in my computer science class, there was only a few women there. When I was in my physics classes, there was only a few women. Like a lot of times in our meetings, there was only a few women, but that doesn't mean that in order to blend in, you have to play it small or you have to be quieter. At the same time, it doesn't mean that you have to put a lot of expectations on yourself. You don't need to know everything to take that next step. I think that's one of the big mistakes that women in particular make, and that while there's risk to playing bigger, there's also a lot of opportunities to playing bigger. So just kind of take that with a grain of salt, that there's that discomfort, that's just a speed bump, and then after that things will get better.
Well, I think as we go into some of these questions, if you have any other advice on how to help people play bigger, I would love to keep talking about that.
Absolutely.
Okay. Neda, is there anything you'd like to add here? What do you think of the quote?
Yes. So before Debbie, I didn't realize that Marianne is also known as the spiritual advisor to Oprah. So it's like two, yeah. So it's like two strong women supporting each other, which perfectly resonates with our theme here today, right? So getting to the quote, since you mentioned Nelson Mandela, who is the symbol of liberation, I feel, and many of you will agree, that to liberate yourself fully, you have to overcome your internal fears. Men or women, right? When you overcome your fears, you can push the boundaries and achieve success, even when the path forward is difficult or challenging. So today, I want to ask all the everyone, especially the women, like we have a responsibility, especially as a woman, to love ourselves, to challenge ourselves, and overcome our own fears, right? So next time you raise your hand and take on that hard project that no one wants, right? Find your confidence. And to me, that's finding your voice. So over to you, Debbie. Yeah.
Oh, I love that. Thank you. How does bringing your voice to the table raise the level of business? No, that's an interesting question. By having diverse opinions in decision making, it will certainly bring up the bar. Isn't that right, Azita?
Oh, absolutely. First thing I would say about the voice is that, what is that voice, right? So when you're working in your projects and so forth, try to really develop that voice. What is your point of view? How do you think you can improve the project? Ponder upon it, really work on it, that what is my voice? And you always have a voice about everything. You don't necessarily have to bring it up at each and every meeting, but at least for yourself, develop what that voice is. And I've never been a yes sayer in my life. Sometimes it's worked for the good of my career, sometimes not. But I've always been true to my opinion, to my voice. Like, what is it that I believe about this project, about this strategy, and how would I do it differently? So that's the first thing I would say. The second thing is, your voice doesn't always come out as this super confident, in your face, hedge fund manager type of voice. And no offense to hedge fund managers, but it could be this nasally, shrieky voice that comes out, and it's very shy. But it's okay. It's okay. Bring it out. You have a point of view. You need to bring it out. And I would also say that if you're in a leadership position, or even if you're facilitating a meeting, make sure that you invite others to bring their voice out. Because, more often than not, you find out that there are gems among people's minds that are just left there undiscovered, and you need to go in there and dig them out.
I love that. That is your little golden nugget. Always gems in every meeting. We have to pull it out of people, and that actually gives them permission to do it to others. I love it. Anything else you want to add?
No, it's just that, just being true to your voice and being true to who you are. And there are times where that voice needs to be done in a different way. Like, it doesn't have to come on in the meeting in front of everybody else. Sometimes you need to bring it out like with people individually. Sometimes you need to be discreet about it and so forth. But again, you need to be the original you that you are, and that voice, you need to know what that voice is, and then you need to see where the right place and time to bring it up.
I love. Thank you for the advice. I'm going to move to Neda for a minute. What does it mean to have a voice and stand up for yourself? Now, this is just going along with what Azita was saying. Does that go for titles, promotions, salary increases? And do you believe that if you don't ask, you don't get? How do you handle that?
I love this question. So earlier in my career, I used to believe that actions speak louder than your words, but not nearly as often, right? As Sumit pointed out, statistics shows that men ask more for a salary raise or a promotion, and compared to women. I'm not saying women don't have a voice. A lot of us do. And like Azita said, she's always raised her voice. But what I felt and I feel is important is, as I encourage women to stand up for yourself, how you negotiate also determines your success rate. So think about it. Employee A, for example, goes to the manager and says, hey, this is the median market salary X, and I want you to adjust my salary. And employee B does some data analysis about his or her output versus their colleague, compiles the data, let's say, and presents it to the management. Who do you think, right? Employee A or B will get the raise. So it's very, very important that we stand up for ourselves, because not all managers are mind readers. And also, mind you, they are very busy. So equally important is learn how to ask, right? So raise your voice for sure, but be smart about it. How you ask is very, very important. Yeah, so that's it, Debbie. Thank you.
Oh, that's great. Thank you. I have another quote to read. This is for Deborah. You have always been fabulous, my dear. You just had to learn it for yourself. Now, that was written by the very famous Glinda the Good Witch from Wizard of Oz. Deborah, would you like to tell us how you learned this very valuable lesson and why you love that quote so much?
Absolutely. So when I was growing up, the Wizard of Oz was a really great escape for me. So I grew up in Los Angeles, and I grew up in some really rough neighborhoods. So gang neighborhoods, those kinds of things. And so I would always be seeking escape. So it would be movies, be books. And I remember Glinda, the Good Witch, being kind of this great character and role model for me. And so as I grew up, I was pretty insecure. And you guys were talking about a voice. And I think that there's a lot of women out there that don't have their own voice. So I think that voice part is very important, is how do you dig down and deep? So I mentioned that a lot of my career was about achievement in the early parts, like, let me prove to you that I'm good enough. So I actually made it up to the partner level, and I made it in about 13 years, which was a really great acceleration for me, given my background, right? I never thought I'd achieve such a level in my career. But then I took a step back and I started to realize that I wasn't really available for my son and my husband. And I started to realize I really wanted to have more of a connection with them. And I was living in Los Angeles at the time. They were asking me to move to New York, and it was going to be about disrupting my entire life. And so I really was on the cusp of, what decision do I make? Can I give up a partnership? Can I do that? And I did do that. And interestingly enough, that's when I started to figure out my own power, because I took it in my own hands by giving up this very great position. And so over the years, I've now had more time to focus in on developing myself, becoming a coach, and I have discovered that I am absolutely fabulous. And I think every woman should look at herself in the mirror. And I would love it if you held up a mirror to your face right now, or just looked, or even just yelled, I'm fabulous, because we really all are fabulous.
Well, that was fabulous. It was simply fabulous. I think we all grew up being scared of the bad witch, but we loved Glinda the Good Witch. Let's switch gears for a moment to finding your passion. Now, I've always been a big believer in finding out what you love to do and then figure out how to do it for a living. In other words, we all know how important it is to be passionate about our jobs. But is that a reality? So Neda, do you have any advice on this subject? You mentioned something about figuring out your strengths, but you found them out through others. But that actually helped you find your passion. Could you tell me a little bit about that? Tell us a little bit about that story.
Yes, Debbie. So before I get into the story, I wanted the audience to think about this, right? What is passion? Like, ask yourself if passion and strength is the same thing. The answer is no, actually. So you might be good and curious at many things, but is that really your passion? And that's a very important question to ask ourselves. So if you think about it this way, like, what is common among the greatest leaders, right, from different walks of life the world has seen? We started with Nelson Mandela. Think about Mother Teresa, Einstein, Oprah. From all walks of life, they had this unflinching passion for a cause, right? And you see the greatness that they deliver through their work. because whatever cause it was, they firmly believed in it and they were passionate about it. And you could see that, right? And you felt it. So it is very, very important to have identified your passion. It's not easy, but it is that passion that gives you that reason to keep pushing yourself in challenging times. And more importantly, passion will allow you to keep learning and work towards that mastery. So think about it. Is finding your passion important, right? With that said, again, it is easier said than done. Many of us in the start of our career, we may not exactly know what our strengths are, what our passion are. So try to identify what your top 3 strengths are. And when you do that, I have realized through my career is it's also important to be realist about it. Do others perceive those strengths as my strengths as well? So we have done like a couple of workshops with my team at Facebook, where I ask my team members and even my directors and my clients to tell me about my top 3 strengths and try to align that. Am I also considering those as my strengths, right? When you align, oftentimes I have seen my team members, some of them were very surprised that others thought that it was a strength where they had rated themselves very low in it. So it is very, very crucial because perception sometimes is reality in the business we are in. So try to ask around and try to match that, right? What others think about you, what you think about yourself, and rate the top 3 strengths. And also try to find that magic moment where you can tie your strengths back to your passion. And it is really like a moment when the passion and strengths merge. You would be ready to fight any challenges, and that drive can be just seen, you know. So yeah, Debbie, that's what I have felt, and I encourage people to definitely identify and figure out.
I love that you went through that exercise. What she had mentioned to me is that she had a boss talking to her about her top strengths. And because of that, it helped her decide what road to choose for doing different things in her career. So I guess that was a mentor, right?
Yes, yes.
Anyway, Azita, would you think that following your passion limits you professionally? Now, if I love to ski, I certainly can't have that as a profession, right? So I'm curious, have you found multiple passions throughout your career, and how did you discover them?
You know, the career advice, follow your passion, has been a source of agony for me throughout my career. I can't tell you how many times. I mean, I even remember, I graduated from high school early, so was deciding to go to college like at 15, and I was looking at all these choices, whether I wanted to. I loved physics, I loved math, I loved chemistry. So what do I do? And it's like, and finally, after like agonizing weeks, I said, okay, I want to be a chemical engineer. And so that was the major that I first chose. And then I went to college, and I took so many things. And my dad wanted me to be a doctor, and I took that. And I started liking biology, but not that much. And then I took a computer science class, and I just loved it. And I just loved that. I loved my instructor. The professor was just so young and energetic. And so, and then I throughout my career, I've started with working on networks, and then databases, and then looking at various things. And now I'm in telecom. I just feel like, that advice of follow your passion could work for a certain population, which sort of knows from the early on in their lives and careers, like how, they found it and they want to follow that and they're strong in that. But that has not been a good advice for me. I even remember going to this snazzy New York City book launch party. And as we walked in, they gave us this name tag that we put on our jackets to say, what our passion was. And it took me like 10 minutes to figure out, what am I going to put on this? I have so many passions, and this is, an industry party, and I need to network. So what would they see on my label that would be good enough to start a conversation? So I just feel like, you start somewhere, wherever, and with a number of interests and stuff, and then you start building. And for me at least, that had a lot of passions. I start like exposing myself to different things. Whether it was in college, I took a lot of different courses to see what I liked and or later on in my career, I decided at some point that, oh, I was tired of doing this and I wanted to move to something else. And then when you move to that something else, then you have to work really hard to get that skills all honed in. And usually, they say 10,000 hours, or I don't know if that's accurate or not, but you still need to work some years to develop your strength in that other thing that you picked up. So for me, it's been more like I get tired and bored of staying in one area, and I'd like to move around to different things. And I kind of like to think of it as a Renaissance woman, Renaissance person to sort of, life is too short. There's so many things that you want to do and find out about. And so you spend time in them. And that's been my sort of guiding light to say, what is it that I've done that I don't want to necessarily do anymore, and how can I build on it and go on to something else that is coming, that's new, that I'm really excited about, that I want to learn more about.
I think you're passionate about being passionate. I love it. Thank you. Deborah, what do you say creates happiness and success? Now, you had a big title. Did that do it for you?
Yep.
How do you find true happiness in your own terms? And I really also want to know is, what advice would you give others here?
So I just want to add really quick, Azita, you're just so impressive. I mean, it's just really amazing. So it's a pleasure to be on here with you and Nita also. So I really love this question. I actually used to teach a class when I worked at Warner Brothers, and it was called Don't Worry, Be Happy. Something that was really cool that they did at Warner Brothers and might still do is they allowed employees to teach classes that they were passionate about. So we even had people that, knew how to plant plants and those kinds of things. So just as a side note, and ideas for anybody that's on here today of having your employees teach what they're passionate about, keeping with this theme from before. No, I did not find happiness in the titles. And I don't think, there's certain things that we're happy about for a moment, right? I buy a new car, I have a new boyfriend, I get a great new hairstyle, whatever it is, you're going to be happy in that moment. And so how do you really create deep-seated happiness? And what I call it is, I don't even call it happiness, I call it mostly happiness. Because somehow we have this ideal, I believe, that we're supposed to be happy 24/7, right? So whenever we post on social media, it's always the best side of us. It's never really the problems. It's the, hey, my life is perfect. And actually, no one's life is perfect. And so what I have found is it's really digging in to find out who you are and not living your life on other people's terms. So as women, so often we're living it, what was the family expecting of me? What is society expecting of me? What does my husband expect? What does my kids expect? But we do all that for everybody else, but we need to start asking ourselves the question, what do I expect of myself, or what do I want from myself? What do I want from my life? What am I passionate about? And when we start to follow a path that's more in line with who we really are, then I think that's when you start to achieve more of that happiness in your life.
Well, I love that. And can we bottle that up and sell it? Start a new business?
Let's do it.
All right. Well, let's do this. Let's talk a little bit about mentoring, okay? And I always wonder, how many women mentors do we have, and how many male mentors do we have? I think it's worth thinking about here. So let's talk about the importance of mentoring. And Nita, I know that you've taken an active role, you said that earlier, in mentoring, and you mentioned to me a lean in circle at Facebook. I love the whole lean in concept right now. Would you like to tell us what you get out of helping others? And have you had strong women mentors yourself? And what about men mentors?
Yes, Debbie. So this year, I had the privilege to lead a circle of women for the Facebook infrastructure. This is like the backbone for all Facebook apps, right? Very strong women from diverse backgrounds. They all have unique ambitions. It's 10 of them. And they all face unique challenges, technical or non-technical. Why I wanted to stress this is whether we are from a STEM background or not, we all could use some mentoring and guidance in our life, right? So it's very important that you find the right mentor and an expert in their area who could help with your vision, right? Now, the question to like, what do I or any other mentor get by helping others? I think it's the love for learning. And it goes both ways. The mentor and mentee both learn, and it's an opportunity to learn from each other. Because this was over a period of 12 weeks, right? I got to spend a lot of time researching and understanding each of these participants. And you learn the new generation idea and challenges and learn how to stay relevant for the mentor. And the mentees, on the other hand, they learn from your experience, right? So it goes both ways. I had to do research on Stanford professors on this topic because the topic was leadership through influence. So how can you lead without a positional authority or title? I listened to TED Talks. So in the process, I created a framework that was customized to the audience, right? And I realized this very, very important that to have a framework over time is we all are very busy. If you really want this mentor-mentee relationship to be successful, you have to make sure that the ideas get captured somewhere and they are actionable. Because next time when you meet, you want to follow up that did the needle move? Did they improve on some of the actions that you made for each other? So I think that has really been helpful, and I have passed on the framework to some of the first-time mentors. So I encourage all of you to, as you find a mentor, make some of the points actionable and help your mentors who are also super busy, right? And the number 2 point above all is the satisfaction and the inner happiness you get by giving to others. A small thank you also goes a long way, and it's like a reward in itself, right? So I think the first thing is the love to learn. And I think the second thing would be the satisfaction of giving back, because you also had mentors in your life who helped you to reach where you are today. And I think, Debbie, you asked, like, did I have strong women mentors myself? So the answer is yes. And Sumit earlier, while opening the session, he talked about mom. So I also had a very strong entrepreneurial mom managing home and work, but more importantly, a very supportive and confident dad, right? He was in a house of women. I have a sister who is a gynecologist. It's myself and my mom. He's always been very supportive and very, very encouraging. And I think that has helped all of us to be successful and pursue our dreams. I have also been hired in Facebook by a very strong woman director, Jyoti Black, and she has been an inspiration since I got into Facebook. And two keywords that I want to pass it on to the audience today is what I have learned from all the mentors, whether technical, non-technical, or personal, is be grateful for what you have, right? For your health, for your family and friends, because that gives you an inner peace and contentment. And always be excited about or have hope about something that makes the journey so beautiful. So be grateful and have hope is something that applies to any scenario you are in. So.
I love that. Are any of your mentors watching right now?
I don't know. They're pretty busy. I hope so.
I think instead of TED Talks, we should call it Native Talks. How about that?
I love that, Debbie. We should do one.
And let's hear about Azita Talks right now. What should people expect, do you think, for mentors and mentees? And, you used a different word instead of a mentor. What about a champion? I love champions. I always like to find a champion of something and actually manage expectations.
So actually, as we were having this discussion, I kind of flashed back to early years when I was in school. For me, some teachers have been like great mentors, right, that have come up. And if I have a great relationship with a teacher, then I just excel at that subject. That's just something that I found in myself that and kind of brought that over to workplaces too. If I love the leaders that I work with or work for, I just totally like go. Of course, then you have to create environments for yourself where you're not looking for external factors to drive you, but that is a big driver. The other mentor that I want to say, which again just flashed in my head, for me, books have been great mentors. You know, I even remember not that long ago, maybe like 5-6 years ago, where I was dealing with some difficult situation, and in the middle of the night I go on my laptop and look for a book and then I and then the next day when there was still I go and buy it, and sometimes in the middle of the night I buy it on Audible and I listen to it. And so then I just think that there is a lot to learn from them. But now in your career, sometimes early days in your career, there are mentors that show up and you are just too naive to see them as mentors. And so you got to be very tuned to that if somebody is trying to help you, that you should be thankful for that and able to receive it, right? I remember very first year in my career, a very higher up VP told me to take a particular leadership class, and then I said, oh, I'm too busy. Like, I mean, I don't know what I was thinking, but anyways, I think mentors, and then later on in my career, when there were these kind of more structured type of mentor-mentee relationships, I've gone through some of them as a mentee. I thought they had limited benefits, but what helped me the most is finding a champion. And it wasn't like I found them; they kind of appeared, and I was wise enough at the time to be able to recognize them. So, for example, out of my in my network, I have some great people that now I call my mentors or my champions, where I can go to for when I have a question that I need to get answers to, and if there's a challenging situation that comes up and I need someone that knows me and it can give me advice like in 10 minutes. So I have a very dear friend, colleague, mentor, champion, who's a venture capitalist in Silicon Valley that just, I can call him anytime and I can ask him about something. And I know he will give me an honest answer and he will push me forward. And again, he's helped me a lot. But those, you have to be smart enough to see it when it appears, and then be able to take advantage of it. And on the other hand, though, through your career, that you helping others as well. And it doesn't have to be necessarily in a structured, organized way, but not that there's anything wrong with that. You could become a mentor to others as you become more senior in your career, and I've done that, and I find that very very satisfying. And more than what you give to them, you also learn a lot from their careers as well. So it's a beautiful relationship that you can develop, but you need to kind of take it seriously on that.
Yeah. Well, you know what I think we can all learn from all of you here. This is terrific. We have a couple more topics we want to get through today, and if we've got time, we'll take some questions from the audience. So let's try to jump into this. But let's hear from Deborah. You're a certified coach with refined skills, and I'm thinking maybe you should be a moderator. You'd be good at it. Yeah. Can we talk to you a little bit about what you've learned along the way when you've gone through the process?
So I'm going to answer this in a little bit of a different way, because there's something that I just want to highlight that I do think is going to resonate. Maybe with everybody in the audience at some point, and especially right now. So this industry, media and entertainment, is going through incredible transition. And we do know across a number of the larger companies, they've laid off a number of employees. And when you work in corporate, you're worried, right? A lot, I think, about, is your job going to last? And part of it's because of you have these transformations and companies buying companies, et cetera, et cetera. This is my roundabout way of saying this is how I became a coach in the first place, because we had been having a round of layoffs, and I started to think about, what if I lost my job and I'm the breadwinner in my family? And I started to think about, well, what else would I want to do? Because do I want to keep having different corporate jobs? And am I going to constantly worry that I'm going to lose my job? And is there something I could start to do where I'm in more control of my life? And in part of this, I'm giving advice also to women as I'm saying this, right? So I thought about, what really am I passionate about? And it was about mentoring and coaching people. And I had done that all my career. And so I decided to invest in coaching school. It was like 10 grand. It was my own money. But it was so worth it, because the first client is yourself. And you go through the whole coaching school and you have to dig down, because really, in order to be there for people, you've got to clear out your own stuff. So that helps you to clear that out. And so I learned so much about myself, and then I have the ability to compartmentalize, where even if I'm going through some stress, I can put it aside to be very focused in on the person I'm working with. Right now, I am not coaching people, but I am mentoring. And there is a difference. I'm not doing for a living. One, I'm just doing it for the good of humanity and women, and just really trying to help and give back to everything I have received. So thank you for that question.
Yeah, I think it's great. Well, I think it's a perfect transition into the next topic, which is career transitions, right? I think there's one thing in life that is constant, and that is change. And how do we adapt? With what's going on in the industry right now, everybody has to adapt. We have to be at the top of our game. We've got to be one step ahead. And with this pandemic on top of all emerging technologies, transitions with career development is critical. So Azita, as Deborah just mentioned, there's a lot of downsizing with a lot of companies right now. And there's a lot of women that are looking for positions, as you know. But the truth be told, their current role could literally be not as relevant today as it used to be, because of COVID and because of the emerging technology. Do you have any area that you'd like to share?
Well, I think everyone goes through these transition periods in their careers. Sometimes it's based on personal choices, and sometimes it's forced upon you. So I think in any case, this is an exercise that we should do on a regular basis, and maybe with the help of people like Deborah, people will do that. But, I think we always have to step back a little bit to say, what meta skills we have developed through our career, right? So even if this particular job is going away, either because of the reorganization or the technology trends are going a different way, you have developed some meta skills, right? So what are those meta skills, and how can I put it into some other adjacent area, or in this, or complement it with this new trends that I need to learn about to then apply it to a new position. So I think that there are trends that are changing all the time. So you need to stay on top of that and get your skills up and running. Like I know, for example, cloud, IoT, next generation communications, and AI, those four are going to transform each and every industry. So either your industry is already transformed or it's about to get transformed. So it's like, if you jump on at least these four areas and get better at it, and then identifying
what's your advice though on how to jump into those areas? We all know what you're saying is mission critical, but how do you do that?
Yeah, I mean, there's so many online training courses now available, talking about cloud, talking about IoT, 5G, AI, right? So you could jump in there and actually get a certificate in there. I do that on my weekends. I look at some of these online training courses and just constantly upgrade. There is a book on digital transformation from Tom Siebold that has a list of things at the end. That's great index to look at. It takes time, right? So, but you go through it and you learn, and you just, I think that. But then identifying your meta skills, you either do it with yourself or with people like Deborah to get those meta skills. So what is it that you have that you can offer to others?
Well, thank you. I'm just going to jump into another subject just because timing is critical here. And we had talked about career transitions, but we also need to talk about the new norm. So, you know, when you think about, let's say, Nada's background, she's coding, but career is different than that. So she did a leap of faith into a new career, and her obviously her past has helped her role. But is there any advice that you could give anybody? And thinking about what Azita just said about with the new norm and COVID hitting, and you know, anything to do with the cloud, what advice would you give people today to really help them be relevant for tomorrow?
Right, Debbie. So I moved from a very technical background to non-technical, right? Because I realized my passion early on, but it's not necessarily true that all of you will recognize or identify. And like Azita said, sometimes you'll be forced to move because of the situation you are in. And sometimes because you want to take risk or you're curious, you would want to change your career. So whatever the reason is, right? Be open to taking risk, and sometimes you will also face failures, but trust me, if you have that drive, the passion, you will come out successful, and if not, at least you'll come out with some valuable lessons that you can apply to your next job. So don't stop, challenge yourself. For me, why I took that step is because when we were given a first paying job to build a website for a customer, 4 of us were given a module to code, right? I realized that each one of us, when we finished our module, I was more interested in seeing how we would integrate to each other's module and present it to the customer. And the other coders, who are great coders, much better than me, they were curious about how to optimize their code and get better and better, right? Their module. So when it came to the presentation day, the team nominated me to present it to management. And when I got recognized for how I could break that complex technical subjects into simplified manner, I realized that it's not just because I did it well, I really love it and I really enjoyed the process of doing it. And today also my job is that, pretty much that's it. I am the bridge between the technical group and the business. I firmly believe, right, an idea is an idea and will sit on the shelf if you cannot sell it, or if you don't have a way to convince that it's a good idea. And I love that. And today I am the intermediary bridge between our Facebook engineers and our partners' business teams. So finding your strength is very important, and whichever job it is, you will somehow bring your strength to the table, and that makes a huge difference to the entire team.
Oh, that's great. Thank you. Deborah, I just want to take a pivot for just a minute, because you've done a lot of pivots yourself in your career. So when you think about transforming yourself, you did one big move, and that was for your family. I think it's important for you to talk about that today. And I'd love for you to share your perspective. And did that decision for balance make a significant impact in your life?
Absolutely. And I was a coder also. I went to school and learned how to code. And I remember my first job, they a group of books in front of me, and they said, okay, go learn this new language. And I realized early on that that wasn't my passion. It was more about being with people. And so that's one of the pieces of advice I want to give you guys. Another one is that you have to constantly reinvent yourself. So there isn't such a thing that you go to college, get your degree, and then it ends there. Especially in this environment, especially in technology, it's evolving at light speed. And so that's part of my advice and what I've learned in order to pivot. And in my career, I was always put in very narrow boxes. Like, you only have this skill and we're comfortable with you being in this box. You have to be willing to break out of this box. Don't allow people to label you.
Nobody puts Deborah in a box.
Yeah, no. And I don't think any of the ladies here, do not allow them to put you in the box. And you just break out of that box, you figure out how to break out, and then you just pivot. And I've done multiple pivots.
Oh,
I'm so happy that I did.
Can I ask you to read the 2 quotes that are behind you?
Yes. So one is, positive things happen to positive people. So I'm sitting here in my home office and I just like to surround myself with lots of quotes and positivity. But the one I really like the best, and I think it's going to resonate with all of us, is if you stumble, make it part of the dance.
Love that.
So, and we all stumble, everybody stumbles, you just go right back in there.
I think that's an interesting analogy for 2020, right? Everyone stumbled a bit, but what's interesting about being positive is that there's silver linings coming out of this year. And I think talking today with the three of you have given us a lot to think about. And if I were to give anybody advice myself, it's where are the silver linings that are coming out of the pandemic and coding and the emerging technology world, and how do we prepare ourselves for our future? And I think that's really important. But I know that we're getting close to the top of the hour right now, and I've had such a great time in this discussion. I just wanted to know if we have a few questions from the audience.
Yes, we do. Astrid?
Yes, I think we have time for at least one question, and one that stood out in particular, who is for Anita, actually. So earlier, and it's from a question from Disha Saini. So earlier you mentioned about having hope. What advice would you give to a person who have been laid off lately due to COVID-19, since we all can agree that some of us are really going through a hard time, right? I think it's that kind of time. It's testing all of us. Would you mind giving them any suggestions?
Thank you for the question, right? So it is particularly very hard when you're going through challenging times to have hope, right? And I have personally gone through it. So I'll just give you a personal reference. When my second son was born, I just thought his growth trajectory would be the same and the learning curve would be same like my older son. So the younger one is 3, the older one is 6. And the 3-year-old is nonverbal, right? And I didn't know anything like that existed. So it was a very big parental challenge for me. But if I gave up hope, trust me, there is no way me and my husband can have a normal, happy life, right? So we had to talk to each other. We did a lot of research. What are the avenues that we can have to help him build his speech skills? Same thing for the job. If you're laid off, look for the avenues that are out there that will help you find a job, get resources, get help, get guidance, right? Once I figured out that there are so many ways to do speech therapies, ABA therapies, I was more confident that there is a way, right? If I give up, that's the end of it. But if I don't give up and I have the hope, it allows me to find ways and get help, right? So I would say hope is very important, and especially during challenging times, and hope from the heart, right? You got to be very positive about it, and enjoy the journey, because it is very, very important that you have to believe in it to enjoy it. So that would be my advice. I hope I answered your question, Disha. Astrid, we can't hear you. You're on mute.
I was talking on mute. Great. Thank you for letting me know. I was saying thank you. I really like that response. I think hope is an important aspect, and just believing in yourself as well. I know we only have 2 minutes. Sumit, there was a poll that we wanted to show to the panelists. Do you think this is a good time to show it now?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I'll just take quick 1 minute. But before that, I really want to thank each one of you. Thank you so very much, our elite role model panelists. I couldn't have asked for a better panel than this to launch this powerful series. As you can see, the results, it's not a surprise. About 23% of our audience have been coached, and coached by a woman. That's not a bad number. As today, we had 89% of our audience as women. But if I were to quickly sum up, I know we just got 1 minute to go, Astrid, if I may. My 4 takeaways: don't just follow, but find your passion. Keep fanning the fire. Be passionate about your passions. Develop your voice. Bring it out. Be who you are. And Nida, you said it very nicely. Be grateful, have hope. And Deborah, you said it even more eloquently. Positive things happen to positive people. And we know, Azita, you've said it over and over again. It's okay to stumble, make it part of your dance. With that, Deborah, Nida, and Azita, it's not a coincidence that if I put the initials of your name together, it says the DNA, and you truly symbolize the DNA of successful women. You energized several and definitely made an impact today on many of us. Thank you so very much from all of us at TechMin.
Thank you, Kim team. It was wonderful. We want more men hosting panels like this. Thank you, Sumit.
To be
Thank you.
I-
To be here.
I also want to thank, well, of course, Azita, Nita, and Deborah. Thank you so much. Like, I don't think Sumit could have said anything better, so I'm not going to try to beat that. I also want to thank, of course, Sumit and our moderator, Debbie, for putting this wonderful event together. And lastly, I want to thank the guests for attending and for asking such wonderful questions. I'm sorry we couldn't get to all of them. But before I let everybody go, I want to let you know that there will be another session in the Women in Tech series on September 11th. We'll be sending more information on the theme and how to sign up as soon as possible. So sign up as soon as you have that information. Thanks again, everyone. And most importantly, have a wonderful weekend.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.